sets, lists, tuples, and dictionaries, which is not really a built-in type, but it's going to be a way to store your information. So you can use all of this here to be stored in different data structures, and in this case Python has some really useful structures to use. The one that it's the most common, it's the list. A list is Python's soul, in my opinion, because most things are treated like a list and are very easy to use. So a list is just going to declare a list. You just have to use square brackets. This is a list. This is a list that is empty. It has absolutely nothing, but that's it. That's your list. So in a list, you can store whatever you want. And whatever you want, I mean, really whatever. You can actually store numbers, 1, 2, 3. You can mix the types that you have in your list. So if you want numbers, but you also want text, you can do that. There's no problem with that. You can have values that are repeated. There's no problem. You can have a list inside a list, and inside this list you can have the same thing. You can have whatever you want inside. What else? You can have booleans that say true. Anything that you want, you can store in a list. Okay. So the difference with a set is going to be defined by the normal brackets that you know. Usually in a set you want to have values that are not going to be repeated, or usually something that you don't want to change, just want to use. Let's say that you want to set for the days of the week, so you go Monday, Tuesday, and so on, right? This is a set of values that you want to store, and it's the same. You can save whatever you want. You can mix with numbers or booleans, anything. A tuple is, well, the name says it, is a value that you want to store with another value. It's just going to be to declare the tuple, just use the parentheses, normal parentheses, and let's say you want a tuple of, I don't know, you want to store the height and the weight of someone. So let's say they are 175 centimeters, and let's say they are 80 kilos, right? So that's just a tuple that you have. You cannot change the values later in this, which is something that you can do with lists, for example. This is something that is going to be stored, right? Yeah, you can use it in the future, but you cannot change the values. You can just access or read the values if you want. A dictionary is going to be something that you store. It's going to be like a box where you store information, but it has two main things. It has the key and it has the value, right? So sometimes it's easier to access stuff from the key, not really from the value. So maybe the value is too big, or it's too complex, or maybe the value is a list, so it's not easier to search, right? So an example would be, let's say you have a list, let's say you have a class with a lot of students, right? So you have the grades of the student in a list, okay? And you have the name of the student as the key. So in your dictionary, you would have something like, let's say, John, and in a dictionary to this would, the first thing that on the left would be the key. Then you use 2 points, double column. How is this called? And then just have the other value, right? So let's say the John got an 80, and then he got a 90, and then he got a 95, right? So this would be a dictionary with just one value. And then if you want to go ahead and see, let's say Anna, right? So she has the key, which will be the name, and then whatever value you want, right? So let's say she got a 90, and then she got 100 because she was paying a lot of attention, and then she got a 95, right? So that's your dictionary. Okay. So we have set, lists, tuples, and dictionaries, and I think that's it for the structures. Now, something that you can do with most of these structures is you can index them. They have the index, or let's say the position. It's going to be, well, that, right? Let's go ahead. Let's remove this just so it's clear. Let's use a list. Let's say that the list is going to have this fruit, right? An apple, or easier, let's use letters. This is a set with the letters of the alphabet. So let's go ahead with A, B, C, and D. Right, so this list has positions. You can access any value of this list by the position. So let's put a name to this list. We're going to call it list because we are very creative. This is going to be, list is going to have the value, or is going to be equal to this value, right? So in this case, this letter, okay, let me make a comment here. This letter is in the position 0, which is something that in most things in computer science happen. The first position of most things is not 1 but 0, right? So if you want to access this list, you will need, or this value A, you need to access the list in the position 0. If you want to go ahead and access the letter B, will be the position 1, and so on and so forth. C would be position 3, and they will be position 4. Right? This is the first thing. If you go ahead and say list in the position, okay? If you want to access a value from a list, you use also the square brackets. This is not a null list. This is just to access an existing list in a specific position. So you see that it is throwing an error because it is expecting to have an index or a slice. We will talk about slice in the future, but the index is just the position. Let's say I want the list in the position 3, and this, what is actually going to return or give me, is going to be the letter C. So list in position 3 just gives me the value C. And you can do this for all of this. List position 0 will give you A, list position B will give you B. Also, something pretty cool that Python has is that you can access from the back, which is not something that you can do in every language. So you can go ahead and go let's start from this one, right? So from the beginning, it starts with 0, 0, 1, 2. Holy shit. You did not see this. You did not see this. Nobody saw this. This is fine. Position 3 will be 2. Okay. Okay, I don't know how to count. Okay, so 0, 1, 2, 3, right? So, but from the back, for some, not for some reason, but it just starts with -1. Okay, it cannot be -0 because technically it doesn't exist, but -1 will give you the last element of the list. Okay, and it goes the same way, just backwards. So -1 would be D, and this would be -2. What happened? Yeah, this would be -2, and B would be -3, and this is -4. and works the same way, right? You can access the list from these positions. If you go ahead and you go and say list, let's say position -1 would give you the value D. Okay, very simple. It's considered as an array. It's considered as an array. What is considered as an array? The list? Yeah, okay. To be totally honest with you, I first learned this. So for me, this was a list. It was until I changed languages that I saw that this is an array in most languages. But yeah, it's basically the same. You can index an array, yeah, and you can access this. These lists the same way that you access an array. Let's see, for example, in C#, a list is a class, and it's thank you very much, Beck, and thank you, fix a bug. The bug was the follower count was way too low, but thank you for helping with that. But yes, in C# you have a class for the list, and it has the functions, and it's a little bit more, in my opinion, it's like more high level. In Python, an array, a list, it's basically an array in any other language. But yeah, so we have the ability to access any list from the position. But in Python you can do many things, and you can also slice the list, okay? So what does that mean? It means that maybe I don't really like A and B. I just want C and D, right? Or I don't like A. I really don't like A, so I just want to remove A from my list. So I can go ahead and say list, and I'm going to give it a position. But in this case, it's going to be, well, 2 positions. So the first position is going to be the value that I want to start, okay? So it will be, actually, I don't remember if it's inclusive or not, but let's see, let's try it. Okay, so list is going to be from the position 1, and then you use column, and let's see, position 3, right? So what this does, it's going to, actually, let's see what this does. In my opinion, I think the first value is going to be inclusive, so it will start from here all the way to the end, right? But we can actually go ahead and do this and just run it. B and C, okay, yeah. And if I remove, let's see, let me just be double sure, because if I'm spreading misinformation, I wouldn't really like that. B. Okay, yeah. So this is a great example, okay? So if I tell a list, if I say in a list, the first position, okay, we're going to slice the list, okay? So the first position is going to be the value that it starts, okay? So that's going to be included in the new list. And the second value is going to be the value that it stops, but it's not inclusive. It will not be included in the last in the list, okay? So in this case that we have 1 and 2, starting from position 1 until position 2, is giving us the value, just the value B, a list with the value B. When you access from a position, it will give you the element. But if you slice the list, it will give you a list with the values, okay? Which is different, but it's something that you need to take into account. You can also not use one of the values or the positions, and Python will just infer that you meant the beginning or the end. So if you go ahead and say list from the position 1 column, that just means from position 1 to the end, or position 2 to the end, and it will give you C and D, because you're not setting a final value. And it also works, this should give you position 2, C and D, yeah. C and D. But you can also do it from the back, because Python allows you to do anything you want. So let's say you want -2. Okay, composition -2 should give you, since it is not inclusive, my best guess is that this will give you B and A and B, right? That makes sense. Let's try it actually, just to be sure. Go ahead and run it. A and B, yeah, because it will not include the second value. Okay, so the second position, it's not going to be included even if you're accessing from the back. So this just gives you A and B. So yeah, that's list, and there's a slice in the list. I think it's pretty clear, pretty self-explanatory what it does. The other thing, it's variables, right?